Hi, everyone. It's Lori Ashworth. Welcome back to our second webinar session. I do want to make sure before we start that everyone can see my slide deck. So if anybody is out there and looking, if you can just let me know if you can see the slides this time and you can see my screen. I'm not seeing anyone type anything. If anyone can just let me know if you can kind of see it. Okay, great. So you can see kind of the slide deck. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So welcome back. Sorry about last week for all of you that were there, and for all of you who weren't there, sorry about the technical difficulties of getting last week's presentation up for you guys. We're working on it. Hopefully this week everything's fixed and we can really kind of get right into our presentation and our questions. So for those of you who weren't on the call last week, my name is Lori Ashworth. I'm a licensed social worker at Boston Children's Hospital and Brigham and Women's Hospital. And also do sports psychology and work with a lot of athletes to help show how mental fitness can really affect our athletic performance. So last week we learned kind of a broad outline of what mental fitness, mental health, what mental illness all was, and today we're going to jump right into kind of our presentation of work, life, and training balance, which I know a lot of people really find difficult to manage everything, life's stressful, and today we're going to learn a little bit about what we can do about that. So in today's discussion, we're going to go over kind of the basics. We are going to talk a little bit about work, about life, about training, bring it all back, what we can do if we feel overwhelmed, give some tips, and really answer any questions that we might have. So again, jump on in on questions if you guys have any during the presentation. So this is a slide that we saw last week about everything kind of we deal with in life. And, life is tricky, life is stressful. We have families, we have work, we need to work on sleep, we need to work on nutrition, we have social lives, we are trying to balance schedules. And then again, we as this population have this added training. And that can be really stressful and trying to fit everything in. And we know there are a lot of things that happen when we, have poor work-life training balance. So, we can get extremely tired, and that affects our ability to work productively and think clearly. Stress is also associated with poor health, so this can affect our immune systems. We lose time with friends and loved ones, and, we have these increased expectations on ourselves, and, we start to really go through a lot of stress, and, that can be really hard for ourselves and also our loved ones and everyone around us. So again, life is tricky, and we have all of these things, and we're trying to balance all these things, and we're also trying to balance our training. And depending on what we're training for, that can be, anywhere from 2 or 3 hours a week to, 15, 16, 17 hours a week. So, it's really, again, individualized, but we can all benefit from some of the things that I will talk about. So what we want to do is, as an overview, there are a lot of different things that we can do to help increase our odds of being able to balance everything. So the first one that I always have people, do is schedule, and really being prepared. And a lot of times I have people kind of put an hour or 2 hours to this every Sunday and really write in everything that you have to do per week. Have a family calendar, have, color-coded, pencils for training, work, life, kids, everything like that. So, this is really important because if you have it scheduled, kind of you can always see it where you're supposed to be and then go from there. Someone's saying, oops. Coach Doug will give a training schedule during Ironman to up for 24 hours. Yeah, so we definitely have kind of, up to 24 hours. So back to scheduling, and making sure that everyone's on board with that schedule. Again, being prepared is really going to help you. Being prepared with, having your bike clothes, having your swim clothes, kind of always knowing where everything is that you need, so that kind of you really have no excuse not to, be ready. And if it's on that schedule, then you can kind of always be prepared. Prioritize and reprioritize. So this is going to be really important and really different for each one of us. So we really want to prioritize what is most important at what time in our lives. So at one point for a few months, our biggest priority might be that we're Ironman training. And then kind of reprioritizing a few months later after that's done, and family time might be most important, and work might be most important. And again, we really have to determine what our needs are and what our priorities are in life at that time. And again, it's really going to be individualized, and we really want to, be truthful about what might be the most important at that time in your life. And realizing that, again, it can always change. You can make a decision, and then if it doesn't feel right, you can kind of always, work back and kind of figure out what didn't feel right about it and kind of move on. And we can always learn from, all of these conversations that we have from ourselves. Letting go of perfectionism, which again goes back to kind of the type A personality of all of us athletes. Get rid of those, I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing this, I should want to do this, I should. Kind of society tells us that we should want to do all of these things. Well, kind of who says that we should? Who says that we have to do everything so perfectly? And once you kind of let go of, okay, well, I really don't need to be room on this month because I really want to focus on kind of Ironman training, or I'm just going to kind of let this go for now because, there are other important things in our lives. Kind of letting go of that I need to be perfect in every single area of my life at all times. And kind of with that is really kind of not, multitasking and kind of giving your focus on, whatever it might be at that time. So if you're at work, you're staying focused on work. If you're, training, you're staying focused on training. So kind of letting go of that perfectionism and then kind of also focusing in on whatever we're doing at that time. Striving for consistency across the board. And this really has to do with kind of the basic needs in life. Sleep. So, we want to go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time, even on weekends. Nutrition. All these things that we can keep consistent, try to do it as much as you can. So even going to work at the same time, again, goes back to that schedule. And our bodies will really start to, associate life with that schedule, and will fall much more into routine, and our bodies will be much happier for it. Learning to say no. This is a huge one in life because, we're always taught that, we should always say yes to everything. And we really, when things aren't important to us, and again, it goes back to who said we should do this, kind of deep down, you always know if something is worth it or not. And really learning to say no when you don't want to do certain things. And with that, kind of learning when to say yes. So kind of, again, determining what you really want to do, determining kind of when you have the ability, when you have the time to say yes, and also kind of when you shouldn't say yes. And I know, again, we're perfectionism. We want to be able to do everything all the time. But we really, again, need to remember our priorities and kind of, say no when our, goals don't line up with those priorities, and kind of say yes when they do. Focus on quality over quantity. So this, again, goes back to kind of not multitasking and really, staying present with whatever you were doing. And again, there's a lot of tricks that we kind of talked about last time in staying present. So whether it be, a sense trick. So you want to, say 5 things you can see, 5 things that you can hear, 5 things that you can feel, and 5 things that you can smell. And that will kind of get us back to kind of focusing on the present and really focusing on the quality of whatever we're doing and not the quantity. And this goes along with kind of, when we're with loved ones, really focusing on, being with them. Or, when we're training, really focusing on that. And again, kind of not letting those boundaries cross. And really making sure that we're, taking advantage of what we're doing. The last one is really getting in tune with your mood. And that's a huge one I talked about last time. Is a lot of adults really don't know how to tune into what they are feeling. So society tells us, happy, I'm sad. What do those really mean? And this will really go along with trying to figure out what your priorities want to be, what you want your priorities to be, and kind of when to say no and when to say yes. Because, a lot of times we, are creatures of habit, and we really don't know what we want sometimes. And we fall into that, I should want this and I shouldn't want that. And we really need to focus and kind of learn mentally what our mood is, kind of learn emotionally, get in touch with that, and then really make decisions based on that. And that's also kind of going to tell us when to, stop doing something that isn't healthy for us, or, stop doing something if it doesn't become fun or doesn't become, or just becomes kind of a burden. And again, really, working with somebody on that if it's too difficult for you to kind of figure out on your own. I know sometimes at the hospital, in a pediatrician's office, or things like that, you have the magnets that kids will look at, and they'll circle kind of what their feelings are. And I think this is so important for adults too, because again, sometimes it's okay to just be content. And, we don't need to be ecstatically happy all the time, and we don't need to be, sad all the time, or kind of, we don't need to love training and we don't need to hate training. Kind of sometimes we can just be in the middle and just be content, or, focus on what we're really feeling. And again, this is going to help us figure out, this work-life training balance a little bit more. And the last kind of, comment is focus on what is right for you. Kind of deep down, you always know. And really, really not taking, figuring out what you want to do based on somebody else, or, based on somebody else's training plan, or, your training partner is running this race and you jump on it because of that. Yes, it might be beneficial, but it might not be what's best for you at that time. So really remembering that. So again, we talk about kind of how we can make this work-life training balance. And we can do different things in different areas of our lives. So the first one we're really going to talk about is really at work, and what we can do at work to manage that balance. The first thing we can do is we can set manageable goals. So yes, we would all like to be, the head of whatever company you're working at, or, we all have these huge goals, life goals that we would eventually like to happen. But by making kind of realistic goals, and manageable goals, it can really set us up for success instead of failure at work. So this is, setting smaller goals as well. So, not 2 years from now I want to do this, but kind of by the end of the month I want to succeed at this. And it can really break it down and make things not so overwhelming at work, so that we can have time to focus on other things. Being effective and efficient with work time. This is huge in this day and age of how many people spend work time, on Facebook and, going on different social medias or looking up, the news and things like that. We have the computers in front of us, and we waste a lot of time doing things that have nothing to do with work, or, at least I fell into that. I don't know. I want to say everybody does. But really, again, being efficient and effective with your work time. So putting aside maybe 20 minutes at the beginning of your day for doing kind of all of those personal things, and then maybe 20 minutes at lunch and 20 minutes at the end of the day, so that you still have time to do those things and you get them done, but you're not kind of scatterbrained and you're not, doing a work thing then doing a personal thing. And this can also be kind of if you're commuting, if you can do phone conferences on your commute, or, you can, listen to, a paper or a journal, in your car, things like that, podcasts, making sure that you're really being effective with your time. And, also the next one is staying out of the work drama, which can, be a slippery slope, and kind of we want to be friends with our coworkers and kind of we want to have those social lives at work, but it can be a really tricky thing, and it can be really bad for not only kind of our work goals, but also just for our mood in general. So, if we fall into that work drama, it's going to sometimes maybe put us in a bad mood. We're going to have a negative attitude about work. That's going to come home. That's going to affect our training, and it's pretty endless. So I always tell people kind of just stay out of it. And if a coworker kind of starts talking to you about it, kind of just, politely, end the conversation, or say kind of, this isn't kind of what I want to be doing at work. And again, it's going to help you in a variety of ways. Taking breaks. So, we know that most people can sustain only a maximum level of concentration for no more than 90 minutes. And after that, ability to retain information decreases drastically. So, making an effort to every 90 minutes kind of, take a walk, or, making sure that you're moving around or you're stimulating your mind in different ways. And this can really reset yourself for making your time effective and efficient. And really kind of those breaks are going to help us mentally, help us emotionally, and really, make the most of your time at work. And the last one is kind of setting boundaries. And this one's really hard because, nowadays with emails and, all of these other things at work, and we're constantly on. But really setting boundaries from day one, telling your boss kind of, after this time I won't be available, leaving work at work, and making a conscious decision to separate work time from personal time. And again, this could be also, you give yourself time limits. So if it's not realistic that, for you not to check your work email at home, kind of saying, okay, like from 7 to 7:30, I'm going to, then check my work emails, or, I'm going to put the kids to bed, and then I'm going to kind of focus for a little bit at work. But those boundaries are really important because, they set us up for success. And once people, have those boundaries, and they just expect that of us, or the lack of boundaries, kind of they expect us to always be on. But if you set it up front, kind of people know where you stand. I always tell some of my coworkers or tell some of my patients, that say, well, I have to stay at work until 6, 7, 8 o'clock because, I need to get things done. Well, if you had kids and you had to pick them up at 5 o'clock, kind of you'd be out of there. And remembering that. And the other thing too is, we think we're indispensable in all areas of our lives, and everybody thinks that. If we somehow are on medical leave for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, I hope it never happens to anybody, but your company wouldn't go under unless you own your own company. It's okay to, work is going to survive without you. And, yes, I'm sure that everybody wants to do amazing things at their job, and kind of, we want to be the best at whatever we are. But again, remembering that it's only a tiny portion of your life, and this is going to help that balance. I have a question. Oops, keeps going up. How long do you suggest those 90-minute breaks be? So when I was saying kind of, 90 minutes, our brains are that effective, it can be 5 to 10 minutes, just getting up, walking around, even doing like a little meditation, listening to some music. Again, it can be, up to maybe 15 minutes, as short as 5 minutes. But again, just really, doing something different, getting fresh air, having some water, things like that. And again, obviously, everybody's work kind of environment is different, but really kind of making the best of that. And if you can't do that at work, as I'm getting a question, finding a way to kind of, allow yourself to have that mental break even for a few minutes. So again, whether it be that, present technique that I told you, kind of seeing 5 things, hearing 5 things, whether it be kind of a quick phone call or, again, music, just kind of getting a little mental break. So the next thing, life. And this is a hard one because this is going to be very different for everybody. And everyone has different life commitments, and everybody has different, goals and, different families, things like that. But the most important thing is really surrounding yourself with supportive people. And people that really want the best for you, and people that are going to, be there for you, and, be happy for your accomplishments, and also kind of, be with you when, you're feeling down or kind of you need something, and really getting rid of those people that are toxic. And, it doesn't, people say to me, well, I've been friends with this person forever. People change, friendships grow, people move on, lives change. Again, you don't want toxicity in your life, especially when you're trying to do all of these things and, be effective with training and work and life and, school and things like that. So really asking yourself kind of, is this person a healthy influence for me? And if yes, then kind of keeping them in your life and making sure that you're seeing them. And if not, really asking yourself, and why are you keeping them in your life? And that can be, a different answer for everybody. Maybe it's because, you feel obligated to, or they've been in your life for this long, or whatever it might be. But kind of getting out of that, again, I should be friends with them for this long, or, I shouldn't, whatever it might be. Unplugging. And this, again, goes back to, getting rid of that technology when you're home. Our minds are hamster wheels. Our minds are kind of stimulated all the time, especially with this, technology, especially with the phones, especially with, TV, things like that. And, we really, again, want to learn how to be present, and how to just have a conversation with somebody, and how to have kind of meal times without the phones and, without the TVs and things like that. So, designate kind of, meal times aren't going to have any technology or phones or anything like that. Again, giving certain time limits, just being and just being present and learning how to do different things without being so stimulated all the time. And that's going to really help you to relax. And it's also going to, just help you to focus on the people around you and kind of what you're doing at that time. No, don't overcommit. So this goes back with kind of being able to say no. Really deciding what you have time for in your life. And again, that's going to be different at different points in your life. But kind of, you don't need to do everything all the time. Those volunteer activities or things like that, are great when we have the time, but we might not always have the time. And again, really always asking yourself, do I want to do this? What am I going to get out of this? Kind of, do deep down, I really want to do this. And again, there are some things that, realistically we have to do. We have to go to work. I'd love to tell you all to just quit your jobs and you'd be happy and, on cloud nine, but that's also not a reality. So again, really, not taking on those things that you don't have to take on. And this is sometimes tricky because a lot of people, somebody asks them something and they say yes without even realizing, and then they go home and they say, like, how did I get into this? Kind of why does this always happen to me? Why am I the person that always has to do these things? Well, because you're the person that says yes, and working on changing that. I always say kind of change is 90% recognition, 7% accountability, and 3% doing something about it. So maybe the first time you kind of catch yourself like, oh, this person's asking me to do this, you say yes, but you're recognizing that you're saying yes and that you don't want to do it. And then the next time kind of you're ready to say, I'll think about it. I'm not going to commit now, but I'll think about it. And then, the third time kind of saying like, no, I really don't have time for that. But again, not overcommitting on things that you don't need to. Getting help on simple tasks. This is also very important. And, this is going to be different for everybody, but, I always use the example of, giving people things that, you can, so that you can spend quality time on the things that you want to. So whether it might be, you order from Peapod instead of going to the grocery store and going grocery shopping, whether it might be hiring somebody to clean your house so you're not spending those times, cleaning, and you can spend quality time with the people that you love instead of cleaning your house, whether it might be, whatever it might be, the cooking services, HelloFresh or things like that. And again, some of these things I'm mentioning kind of do cost money, but it's really kind of figuring out where you can do these things and kind of what's cost-benefit ratio to you. So whether it be, during the times that you're spending those 24 hours a week training, those are the times that you really maybe have someone come and clean your house, or, you have someone, do your laundry or things like that, or that's, where you have someone cook. But those times that you're not training that much, maybe you pull back on that. So again, getting help on the simple tasks that you don't really need to get done. I heard somebody on a podcast, they were saying kind of, they were hiring a babysitter so that they could kind of go and do all of, the things they needed to do and run the errands. And they kind of at one point said, why am I having, these people stay with my kids while I'm doing all these things when they can be doing these things and I can kind of be, again, spending the quality time, with the people that you love and being present with that. And this, again, goes with kind of the weeding out the non-essentials. So, the things that you really don't need to do in your life at that point, don't do them. And again, that also can go out with the perfectionism of what do I really need in my life, and kind of, do I, need to go shopping for this, or, do I need, these things in my life? So, that's going to be different for everyone again, but thinking about that and asking yourself kind of, what do I need to be happy in life, and what can I pull back on at certain times? Being okay asking for help. This is also a hard one for a lot of people. And, again, it's that pride thing that nobody wants to admit that they need help in things, but everybody needs help at some point. And kind of, the person that you ask for help might need help with something else later. So, really just saying, this might help us all at some point. And again, you can start with asking for help with those little things, whether it be, asking, a friend to pick up an extra tube for your bike because you don't have time to go to the bike store, or, whatever it might be. Just, telling yourself it's okay. And, then saying to yourself, like, would I, some people say, well, I don't want to be a burden. and saying to yourself, would I care if somebody asked me to do that? No, I'm going to the store anyways. Why would I ever care? And kind of flipping it like that, and realizing that, those things that you can ask for help that are going to save you time, are really going to save you more than time in the long run. It's going to save you stress. It's going to save you, you rushing around, and again, focusing back on those things that matter. Planning things to look forward to in life kind of outside of racing. So again, we all have busy lives. We all kind of go through lives and routines and daily. Sometimes it can feel like Groundhog Day. We need stuff to look forward to, and those don't need to be big things. It could be, I'm going to schedule a massage every 2 weeks, or I'm going to schedule a trip at the end of, the month or in 2 months, kind of. And then when, you're in the daily grind and things aren't, things are stressful and things aren't going well, kind of, you can say, well, in 2 months, I have that vacation plan and I just need to get to that. And, there's a light at the end of the tunnel almost. And, some therapists don't agree with the reward systems. I don't mind them. I think that if they can help build practices and they can help us get through things in life, I don't see where it's a bad thing unless it's you're becoming dependent on the rewards. But definitely planning things to look forward to can help our mood, can help us get through certain points in our lives, and just help overall. So training, again, the thing that all of us are adding into our lives, kind of, and that thing that some of our other friends and other people don't have them. Being honest with yourself and your coach. And this is kind of multi-layered. So being honest with yourself about the time that you have and what you can commit to. And again, being honest with your coach about that as well. We all would love to train those 24 hours a week, but we all don't have that time, and we need to be honest with ourselves about that. And again, that comparison, doing what's right for you at that time, and digging deep down and saying kind of what is okay for me and what isn't. So maybe this season, I just focus on getting faster, and because I don't have time to maybe put in X number of miles at this point because I have A, B, and C going on. And again, kind of being open with your coach about that too, because they're on your side and they want the best for you, and kind of all they want to do is be able to help you. Again, training's always going to be there. These races are always going to be there. Again, if it's not the best time in your life to do them, being honest about that. Just because you've done X race for 3 years in a row doesn't mean you can't take that 4th year off and focus on something different and go back on that 5th year. And taking your time to think about this will always kind of yield better results in the end. And you're also going to, be more confident in your decision once you do this, and you're going to enjoy the training more and put in more of the work, when it's the right time. Having designated training talk times. I think that this is essential, again, for anybody, kind of in this training bubble. Again, like I talked about last week, we're so surrounded by people who are maybe doing triathlons and doing these running races that we don't realize that this isn't the norm. Not everyone knows what a marathon is. Not everyone knows what an Ironman is. And some of our friends and spouses and kids might get kind of sick of us talking about training, or sick of us training and analyzing our results and things like that. So really saying to yourself, okay, we're going to designate 20 minutes, at the beginning of dinner or at the end of dinner, and I'm going to talk about training with this person. And after that, kind of, where, it's done, kind of checking it off the list. Again, we want to surround ourselves with supportive people, but realizing that, this isn't your whole life, and it isn't that other person's whole life either. So really having that time to talk, having time for them to be supportive, but it not becoming, your entire family talk, your entire kind of relationship talk, and realizing that, there are things outside of that bubble. And this is really an important kind of tool for life in general, kind of whatever it might be, whether it be, an illness, whether it be, a hobby of yours that you really enjoy. Again, realizing that just because you love it so much, other people in your lives love that you love it so much and want to be supportive, but kind of it might be overbearing for them to always hear about it. And, a lot of people just don't care about what kind of bike you have and don't care about kind of what race you're doing. And that's just reality. And say that talk for your triathlon friends and your coach and kind of, those people that love you, but for a designated time. The third one is really accepting the impact. And this goes back to being honest with yourself and your coach. Accept the fact that if you sign up for a huge race and you have these long training hours, that your life in other areas is going to be impacted. And that's, just a reality. We can't do everything all the time, and we can't be the best at everything all the time. So accepting the fact that you aren't going to have as much time to spend with your friends. You aren't going to have as much time to put in the long hours at work. And accepting that and saying, I'm choosing this decision right now because it's right for me, and I'm going to accept the fact that this will impact other areas of my life. And once you're kind of in control of that, and once you're kind of empowered in that, again, it's going to turn around and really just benefit your training because you're making the conscious effort to do that. And this is really hard for people to come to terms with because it is kind of, stressful, and it does stink for, the other people in our lives and the other hobbies in our lives. But again, it's what you're choosing to do at that point. Recognizing the signs of burnout, again, huge. I keep saying that, but I think all these things are so important. Again, it's a huge mental and physical toll on our bodies and our minds to do some of these races and to be, athletes and be the best in our athletic fields. And at some point, we're just going to get burned out if we don't take breaks. And, that's going to lead to mental fatigue, mental health issues, mental illness, and, really working with somebody to, figure out if, you just need a break, or if maybe you just need a 1 week break, or maybe you need 1 month break, and kind of coming back to training after that 1 month break and, being better than ever. So really recognizing those signs, and we'll definitely have a whole seminar about that. The fifth one is really making it fun. And again, you're choosing to do this. You all love to do this in one way or the other, and trying to really remember that it's supposed to be fun, and it's really a huge undertaking, but deep down you love doing this. So reminding yourself of that and just figuring out ways that you can make it fun, whether it be including other people, whether it be kind of overlapping, social stuff with training. So, you run to, your son's soccer game, or, whatever it might be, just make it fun. And, the last one is, when you're trying to fit so many different things in, and again, this will vary with your coaches, but really training by time and not by distance. And that makes it a lot more doable for a lot of people. And they say kind of, okay, I just have this 1 hour to do. And they don't say, I have this unknown amount of time that I have to be on my bike, or I have to be out, on the course. And again, this is going to vary between your coaches, and, I'll never give coaching advice. But if you're having difficulties kind of managing life, and you're feeling just so overwhelmed, kind of maybe taking this approach. And also to, if you're comparing your times to what they once were, kind of if you're training by time, you really don't know if you once ran a 7-minute mile and now you're running an 8-minute mile. I know we can all do the math. I know we all have our routes that we know exactly mile markers for. But there's something about saying, like, I just got to get through this hour. I just got to get through these 2 hours, rather than, saying, I have whatever it might be, miles in front of me, or, whatever it might be, miles on my bike. And again, that can maybe just give us that self-confidence that we're sometimes lacking. Okay, so what do you do when you're feeling overwhelmed? And I'm giving you all of these tricks and tools, and kind of you say, okay, look, this all sounds great, but, in 3 days you forget all these tricks, and, what do I do? So the first thing is really focusing on the positives. So again, this is fun. Kind of you are, choosing to do this. And, there are a lot of positives in your life. You have the financial means to do this. You have people supporting you, in this adventure. You have places that you get to travel to. You have a lot going on in your life. You have an amazing job, and that's why kind of, you have so much on your plate. So focusing on the positives. I always tell people, like, for every negative that you tell yourself, you can turn that into a positive. And that can be for anything, single thing that you give me. And really kind of, this is this, mind chatter, mind talk that we have. And really kind of, not only saying, don't say I can't, say I can, but really just making a positive out of a negative in whatever, your automatic thought might be. Taking time to yourself. So, this is important, and again, we always try to do everything we can and be so much for everybody else, but really making sure that, we're giving ourselves self-care, and we're really just, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes a day, kind of, de-stressing, do some breathing exercises, ask yourself kind of, what am I feeling, what am I wanting to do? The best time for this is, as silly as it sounds, is I always tell people, like, go to a parking lot and park your car in the parking lot, and, just lock the doors and just have those 5 or 10 minutes. No one can get to you. Kind of do a meditation. You put your phone down, kind of just give yourself those 5 or 10 minutes a day. And it just resets you, and, you can kind of really get in touch with your feelings. And with that, too, not only taking time for yourself, but, making time for, fun and relaxation, and setting aside each time for day for an activity that you like, that isn't training. So whether it be kind of reading or, yoga, or all those things that you have never done before, whether it be cooking, again, taking time to yourself to do those things, or even, watching TV at the end of the day. But again, focusing your time on that. So, not multitasking, but taking time for yourself to do that. Even volunteering, not overscheduling yourself, but kind of, volunteering can be beneficial for the person or the charity that you volunteer for, but it also, lowers your level of burnout and stress, and kind of makes you feel really good about yourself that you're doing something for somebody else, even if it's volunteering at a race, or, being a big brother or sister. Again, taking time doing things that, are going to make you feel good about yourself. Again, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, kind of consulting a professional and really talking to someone about how to manage all these different things in your lives. And again, when you're feeling overwhelmed, it's a bigger issue than usually what you just are focusing on, and being open and honest about that, and being open and honest about the need, to talk to a professional. And sometimes when you're feeling overwhelmed, you just really just need to dig deep, and just really need to tell yourself, like, I just got to get it done. I just need to, get through the day. I need to get through the hour. I need to get through whatever it might be, not looking so far ahead, but just saying to yourself, like, just get through this 1 hour, get through this one day, kind of saying to yourself, like, just suck it up. Sometimes that's the best, phrase, and just giving yourself some tough love, or, asking someone else to give you some tough love. Any questions? I don't see anything. Again, you can always kind of email me. You can always, email and ask questions or ask for topics that you might want to hear about in the future. Next week, we'll talk about sleep hygiene. Again, we have Visualizing Race Day coming up, coping with disappointment, when training becomes obsession, relaxation techniques, and then putting it all together. So I just want to thank you guys. Again, thank you for being patient with, the webinar last week, and hopefully we got it all fixed and you guys can see the slides today, so that's a start. So thank you guys so much. I look forward to next week.